Welcome to this deep dive. We're going to be looking at negotiation today, and not like the big business kind, but how to get more of what you want, like every day.
Yeah, we're going to be taking excerpts from the book Getting More. It's by this guy, Stuart Diamond, who taught negotiation at Wharton for over 20 years.
Oh, wow. Okay, so he knows what he's talking about then.
For sure.
So what I found interesting is that Diamond is all about like subtle techniques, not aggressive tactics, which you might expect.
Right.
And he starts off the book with this crazy story. Like, imagine you're at the airport and the gate's closed, and your flight to Paris is about to leave without you.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I think most people would like totally panic, right?
Probably, yeah.
Well, one of Diamond's students, Chen Ruyan, found herself in that exact situation.
Oh.
But she got on the plane.
What? How?
She didn't yell, didn't throw a tantrum.
So what'd she do?
She stayed calm, figured out the captain was the decision maker, really focused on like her goal, like I need to get to Paris. She even connected with the captain on like a human level, acknowledged his authority.
So it's like she used Jedi mind tricks or something.
Yeah, totally. And that's what Diamond is getting at, understanding, the psychology of the other person and then using these like subtle, almost invisible techniques to get what you want.
So finesse over force.
Yeah, exactly. He actually says that negotiation isn't about, pushing your own agenda. It's more about really understanding the other person's point of view.
Oh, that's interesting. It makes you think about all the times you try to convince someone of something without actually like understanding where they're coming from.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So to illustrate this whole, understanding perspective thing, he talks about the O.J. Simpson trial.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The prosecution had so much evidence, but the defense, they were really good at, connecting with the jury, with their emotions and perceptions.
Yeah.
And, well, they won.
They did.
Which shows how powerful it can be to understand, someone's thoughts and feelings, even their biases.
Yeah.
So Diamond goes on to say that, quote, people are almost everything in negotiation.
Okay.
And he has this story about the Hollywood writers' strike in 2008. The Writers Guild was in this battle with the studios.
I remember that.
Diamond was advising their main negotiator, John Bowman.
So I bet he was like all about hardball tactics.
Oh, totally the opposite.
Right.
He told Berman to forget about the complicated issues for a second and just ask the studio execs this. Are you happy?
Wow. Just that.
Yeah. It sounds so simple. But that question, along with this focus on rebuilding relationships, helped end the strike.
Yeah.
And way faster than anyone expected.
It's crazy how such a human approach can be so effective.
I know, right?
It shows the power of connection. Seeing the other person as an actual human being.
That reminds me of the story about Alicia Ryder. It was a late night flight. She gave the gate agent, a bottle of water and cough drops.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, he was super sick.
So it was just a kind thing to do.
Yeah, she wasn't expecting anything.
Well, that little gesture got her a free upgrade to an exit row.
No way. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's about seeing the person, not just the role.
Oh, totally.
Okay, so we've seen how these negotiation techniques can be really helpful in different areas of life, but how do they actually work? What are some practical strategies? Well, one thing Diamond talks about is the power of standards.
Standards, okay.
Yeah, people are way more likely to say yes to something if it aligns with some kind of existing standard or principle.
Oh, I see. So instead of just asking for a lower price, you need a good reason, one that makes sense to the other person.
Exactly.
Wow.
It could be a company policy, a precedent, or even just a general sense of fairness.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this works. Diamond has some cool examples in the book, if a hotel has this policy of honoring reservations, you can use that to your advantage if they try to, give your room away.
Right. Or, you see someone else getting a better deal than you. You can ask why you're not getting the same treatment.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's like you're holding up a mirror, right? Showing them how they're being inconsistent.
Exactly. Okay, what about honesty? Do you think that plays a role in Diamond's approach?
I'm not sure, actually. Does he talk about that?
He does. It's super important. Transparency is key, he says. Being honest and authentic builds trust, which leads to better outcomes.
Oh, that makes sense. So it's actually better to just be upfront and genuine, even if you're, having a bad day or feeling stressed.
Exactly. Be yourself. Don't try to be something you're not. People can totally see through that.
Okay, that's good to know. So be real. Does he have any other advice about honesty?
He even suggests sharing these negotiation tools with the other person.
Really? Wow, I wouldn't have thought of that.
He thinks when everyone's on the same page, it levels the playing field. And that leads to a better outcome for everyone.
Okay, so it's not about tricking anyone, it's more about collaboration. I like that.
Yeah. And transparency also means communicating clearly, staying engaged in the conversation.
So like no storming out or giving the silent treatment.
Not unless you really want to end the negotiation. Staying engaged is important.
That makes sense. Keep those lines of communication open, even when you disagree.
Exactly. And a big part of communication is asking good questions, digging deeper.
So going beyond the surface level, trying to understand the real issue.
Exactly. Diamond says people rarely try to figure out what's really wrong in a negotiation and then, fix it.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's like we need to be detectives gathering clues?
Exactly. Sometimes those underlying reasons have nothing to do with the issue itself,
Right. It could be like a past experience or just something going on in their life completely unrelated to the negotiation.
Exactly. Diamond gives this example about a negotiation that got totally stuck.
Oh.
And it was all because one person felt disrespected by a comment that was made weeks earlier.
Wow. So it wasn't even about the deal itself. It was this like unresolved emotional tension.
Exactly. And by asking the right questions, really listening, we can uncover those things, address them directly.
Okay. So we've got transparency, asking good questions, and listening. What's next?
Well, this might sound counterintuitive, but Diamond actually says to embrace differences in a negotiation.
Wait, really? That's surprising. Usually you try to find common ground, right? Not focus on what's different.
Yeah, it seems counterintuitive. But he says exploring those differences can lead to more creative solutions and stronger relationships, too. It's about finding that sweet spot where different perspectives can work together.
This is really making me rethink how I approach, conflict. Instead of avoiding it, maybe I should lean into those differences. See what happens.
Exactly. And even though we're talking about being open and flexible, preparation is still super important.
Right, because you don't want to just wing it.
No. Diamond stresses having a checklist, like a mental roadmap for your negotiation.
Oh, that's smart. So before I go into any negotiation, I should take some time to think about my goals, the other person's perspective, any potential challenges.
Exactly. And Diamond provides this framework. It's called the Getting More model. You can use it to build your own personal checklist.
Ooh, I like that. A personalized checklist. Okay, so then we have to actually use it right. Practice makes perfect.
Diamond says that if you don't have a list, you're not prepared. And if you're not prepared, you won't do well. He even tells a story about a student, Wei Wang. She was really shy about negotiating at first, but with practice, she got amazing at it.
So it's something anyone can learn, right? These skills.
For sure. Like anything new, the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Okay, so we've got our toolkit, with the checklists and the strategies and all that. But sometimes, emotions can get in the way, right? Even when you're super prepared. How do we handle that?
Oh yeah, emotions are huge. Diamond actually says that negotiation is often more about emotions than logic.
That makes sense when I think about it. We've all been in those situations where, things get heated. What do we do then?
First, you have to, acknowledge the other person's emotions, even if you don't necessarily agree with them.
Oh, so it's not about just, dismissing their feelings.
Right. It's more about validating them. Sometimes that even means, apologizing.
Oh, wow. Even if you don't think you did anything wrong.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's about de-escalating the situation so you can, work together.
Okay, that makes sense. What about using humor? I always find that a little humor can, lighten things up.
Yeah, Diamond talks about that, too. He says that when people won't listen, you can't persuade them, especially, with logic. So you have to get them to listen first.
Yeah, a well-placed joke can totally change the mood.
Right. It helps people let their guard down. Find that, human connection.
Okay. But what if you're dealing with someone who's just, being difficult on purpose, no matter what you try?
Yeah, those are tough. But he still thinks you can apply the same principles. It might just take more patience.
Okay, so don't give up.
Right. He has this story about a student who was negotiating with a cable company.
I hate dealing with cable companies.
I know, right? They're the worst. So she was getting nowhere, ready to give up, but then she remembered what Diamond said about focusing on the person, not the company.
Okay.
So she started asking the customer service rep about his day, what he was into, and they actually found some common ground.
Wow, so even in those super frustrating situations, it can work.
Yeah, because even the most difficult people are still, people. Treating them with respect can make a huge difference.
Okay, that's good to know. Is there anything else we should keep in mind when it comes to, the emotional side of things?
Diamond talks about this concept of framing. Like, how you frame the problem determines how you solve it.
So it's not just what you say, but how you say it.
Yeah, it's about finding the right words and tone that'll resonate with the other person. Like, instead of arguing about who's right, try framing it as a shared problem you can solve together.
Well, that's a good idea. Makes it more collaborative.
Right. Or instead of dwelling on what you might have to give up, try highlighting what the other person stands to gain.
Finding that win-win.
Exactly. And Diamond gives you a framework for, like, finding creative solutions you might not have thought of otherwise.
Okay, that's super helpful. But even with all of this, we have to remember that it's okay to walk away.
Definitely. You always have that power. Know your bottom line, and don't be afraid to say no to a deal that doesn't work for you.
Okay, good point. Sometimes walking away is the best option. So as we wrap up this deep dive into getting more, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from all of this?
I think the most important thing is that negotiation is really all about human connection. Understanding people, building relationships, and finding solutions that work for everyone.
Yeah, it's not about being manipulative or anything like that.
No, not at all. And the good news is, these are skills that anyone can learn.
Exactly. No matter who you are, you can become a better negotiator. So listener, as you go about your day, think about your interactions. Could you have gotten more? What's one small thing you can try today to put these ideas into practice?
Yeah, you might be surprised at what happens.
That's a great challenge. And on that note, that brings us to the end of our deep dive. Until next time.